There comes a quiet moment in every person's life when the inner fist finally starts to loosen. Not because we have everything figured out, but because we're simply tired of gripping so tightly. You feel it in your chest first, that subtle ache of always trying to manage, predict, and control every breath of the future. And then, almost unexpectedly, something inside you softens. You stop dragging yesterday's weight into today. You stop rehearsing fears that never asked to be spoken. For the first time in a long time, you allow yourself to simply be here, in this breath, in this second, in this small pocket of peace. And in that gentle release, something shifts. Life becomes lighter, not because the world has changed, but because you have stopped resisting it. Buddhist wisdom teaches that when grasping ends, clarity begins, not caring less, but holding life with an open hand instead of a closed one. Like a stream that finally finds its natural course once the rocks are cleared, your inner world begins to flow again when you stop forcing every outcome into your expectations. This is the essence of Wu Wei, effortless alignment. Not passive, not weak, but deeply wise. It is the quiet understanding that life moves more gracefully when you stop trying to drag it in the direction you fear. And beneath this truth lies the heart of Anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Every emotion rises and falls. Every moment appears and dissolves. When you stop wrestling with impermanence and begin to flow with it, something extraordinary happens. Life meets you where you are. Not because you pushed, but because you created space for it to move. This video is your invitation into that space, a place where struggle softens, clarity returns, and life begins to unfold with a wisdom far deeper than control could ever create. Lesson 1. The mind creates weather, not the world. There is a quiet truth we often forget. Your mind is the sky, and your thoughts are only passing weather. Yet most days, we live as if every cloud is permanent, every storm is the whole truth, and every dark moment defines the entire horizon. Anxiety forms when we begin to mistake temporary thoughts for fixed reality. A passing worry becomes a prophecy. A brief fear becomes a future. A single moment of doubt becomes a lifelong narrative. But in Buddhist wisdom, these storms are not caused by the world outside you. They rise from the inner atmosphere you create through attachment, projection, and habit. Anxiety is not born from the present moment. It is born from the stories we attach to the present moment. You may feel one small wind inside your mind, a concern, a question, a what if, and suddenly you build entire thunderstorms around it. You imagine outcomes that haven't happened, conversations that never took place, judgments no one has spoken. And without meaning to, you begin reacting to these imagined storms as if they are already real. This is the mind pulled by attachment. Attachment to fear, attachment to control, attachment to imagined futures. Yet if you look closely, the sky itself is untouched. It is the mind believing the weather that creates suffering, not the weather itself. This is where the Buddhist principle of vitakka, directing thought, becomes powerful. It means choosing where your attention rests, gently guiding the mind rather than letting it wander into storms of its own making. Vitakka doesn't ask you to silence your thoughts, only to stop surrendering to every cloud that passes. When you see a fear arising, you acknowledge it, breathe with it, and let it drift. You remember, this is not the whole sky. This is only weather. And something remarkable happens the moment you stop believing every storm. The sky stops suffering. When you recognize your thoughts as impermanent visitors, not absolute truth, they lose their ability to control you. The clouds still move, but you remain steady. You remain spacious. You remain the sky, open, calm, and untouched by the passing storms your mind once mistook for reality. Lesson 2. Control is exhaustion. Trust is clarity. There is a certain kind of tiredness that doesn't come from the body. It comes from constantly trying to manage life with clenched hands. When you spend your days shaking every moment, pushing every outcome, and gripping every possibility, life becomes blurry. The harder you try to force clarity, the more chaotic everything feels. And this is where the Buddhist metaphor becomes true. A lantern shines brightest when you stop shaking it. When you hold it still, the light becomes steady. When you loosen your grip, the path becomes visible. But when you shake it with fear or over-control, the flame trembles, the shadows deepen, and everything looks more confusing than it truly is. Over-control is the mind's attempt to protect itself from uncertainty, but ironically, it creates the very chaos we fear. When you try to manage every conversation, predict every scenario, secure every future moment, you move out of rhythm with life. Instead of flowing, you resist. Instead of aligning, you force. The natural intelligence of life, the timing, the opportunities, the unseen support, all become harder to notice because your energy is tangled in micromanaging what cannot be micromanaged. It's not that life is complicated, it's that your grip distorts it. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from thinking harder, it comes from softening. This is the heart of right effort, a Buddhist teaching often misunderstood. Right effort isn't about pushing relentlessly, it's about applying energy without strain. It's action without aggression, intention without force. It means doing your part with sincerity, then allowing life to meet you halfway. The seed grows because you water it, not because you pull its leaves to make it rise faster. Your job is the tending, not the controlling. And here lies the quiet revelation. Strength is not in gripping, but in grounding. When you ground yourself in trust, in presence, in calm, you become steady enough to see clearly. You act wisely, not anxiously. You respond rather than react. And life begins to move with you instead of against you. In that stillness, the lantern inside you finally glows the way it was meant to. Lesson 3. The present moment is the only place life exists. We spend so much of our lives wandering through timelines that don't exist. The mind leaps into imagined futures, rehearses worries, predicts outcomes, and writes stories long before life ever has a chance to unfold. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us of a truth far gentler and far more liberating. The future is a story. The present is a truth. Anxiety thrives in the world of stories, in the maybes, the mights, the what-ifs, but it cannot survive in the stillness of now. When you step into the present moment, even for a breath, the imagined timelines collapse. The storm quiets, the mind softens, and you realize that in this second, you are safe, you are breathing, and nothing is chasing you. Returning to the breath is not a simple exercise. It is a doorway back to reality. Every inhale brings you into the body. Every exhale releases a piece of the story the mind tried to trap you in. Each breath is an anchor that pulls you out of tomorrow's illusions and places you gently in the truth of this moment. Take a slow breath now, and imagine your thoughts falling away like dust from an old mirror. As the dust settles, the reflection beneath becomes clear, not because the world changed, but because you stopped obscuring it with imagined fears. This clarity is not forced. It is revealed the moment you stop running ahead of your life. This is the essence of sati, mindfulness, but not in the shallow sense often portrayed today. True sati is a compassionate returning. It is the art of noticing when the mind has wandered and guiding it back without judgment, without frustration, without shame. It is choosing presence again and again, knowing that every return makes the mind a little quieter, the heart a little lighter, and life a little clearer. Because life does not unfold in the future you fear or the past you've already lived. It unfolds here, in this breath, in this moment, in this quiet space where truth lives. And when you learn to rest in this space, worry loses its power, and peace becomes something you no longer chase, only remember. Lesson 4. Imagined dangers are the heaviest burdens. Most people walk through life carrying bags that were never opened, never needed, never real. These invisible bags don't contain actual experiences, they contain imagined dangers. What if I fail? What if I'm rejected? What if this goes wrong? And without realizing it, we drag these bags from morning to night, believing we're being careful, when in truth, we're exhausting ourselves with weights that don't belong to us. The mind forecasts danger as a way to feel safe. It believes that if it can predict every possible problem, it can protect you from pain. This instinct is ancient. Our brains were wired to sense threats long before modern life existed. But now, instead of real danger, the mind reacts to thoughts as if they are tigers. A delayed message becomes a crisis. A quiet day becomes a sign something is wrong. A small mistake becomes a disaster in the making. The mind writes entire tragic stories, then forces you to carry them, as if worry itself can prevent reality from unfolding. But these dangers aren't real. They are mental projections, shadows cast on the wall by a frightened imagination. This is the Buddhist teaching of moha, delusion, the misunderstanding of what is real and what is mind-made. Moha deceives you into fighting enemies that do not exist, preparing for storms that never arrive, and carrying fears that aren't yours to bear. And the more you believe these illusions, the heavier life feels. Imagine walking through a long journey with 10 heavy bags strapped to your shoulders. Someone stops you and asks, "What's inside?" And when you open them, you find nothing, only air. This is what anxiety does. It convinces you that the burden is necessary, that the fear is useful, that the imaginary danger must be prepared for. But when you finally look closely, you realize the weight came not from the world, but from belief. This is why Buddhist practice teaches not only awareness, but seeing clearly. When you notice a fearful thought arising, pause and ask gently, "Is this happening, or is this imagined?" In that moment of clarity, the illusion loses its grip, because fear feeds on ignorance, but it dissolves in awareness. When you recognize a shadow as a shadow, it can no longer frighten you. When you recognize an imagined danger as imagined, it drops away like a bag you never needed to carry. And here is the quiet truth. When you stop fighting shadows, you begin walking freely. Life becomes lighter, not because the world changes, but because you stop carrying fear disguised as preparation. You begin responding to reality instead of reacting to illusion. And with every step unburdened, you feel closer to the peace that has always been waiting beneath the weight. Lesson 5. Attachment is the quiet source of your tension. There is a kind of tension that doesn't come from the world around you, but from the hands of your own mind gripping too tightly. Buddhism calls this upadana, clinging, the quiet attachment that wraps itself around outcomes, identities, timelines, and expectations. You may not notice it at first. It feels like ambition, like responsibility, like caring. But then the tightening begins. You feel it in your chest, in your jaw, in the constant hum beneath your thoughts. It is the tension of holding on to life with such force that even small uncertainties begin to burn. And this is where the metaphor becomes painfully true. The more tightly you hold a rope, the more it burns. The rope does not wound you, your grip does. Attachment begins subtly. You attach to a future that hasn't arrived yet, believing happiness depends on things unfolding in a very specific way. You attach to a version of yourself you think you must become, even if it no longer fits who you are now. You attach to people, believing that their choices determine your worth. You attach to timelines, expecting life to bloom on your schedule rather than its own. And slowly, without meaning to, your inner world becomes a network of unspoken demands. This must happen. This should not change. This needs to stay exactly as it is. Each demand tightens the rope a little more, but life is impermanent. Outcomes shift, people evolve, paths diverge, and when you cling to what wants to change, friction is inevitable. This friction becomes stress, anxiety, disappointment. Not because life is unkind, but because your grip conflicts with its natural movement. Imagine trying to hold water in a closed fist. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. Attachment works the same way. The things you cling to begin to hurt, not because they are wrong, but because the grasping distorts them. Yet Buddhist wisdom never asks you to detach coldly or abandon your desires. It asks for a softer holding, a more compassionate relationship with everything you care about. You can love without clinging. You can plan without forcing. You can hope without demanding. The opposite of attachment is not indifference. It is spaciousness. It is allowing things to breathe, allowing life to unfold, allowing yourself to move with change instead of resisting it. This is where the shift happens. When you loosen your grip, the rope stops burning. When you stop demanding certainty, your mind begins to rest. When you release the pressure around who you must become, you make space for who you truly are. And when you stop gripping the timeline, you discover that life often has better timing than your fear ever allowed you to imagine. So remember this truth. Letting loosen is not losing. It is unbinding. It is freeing yourself from the self-inflicted tension created by expecting life to obey your grip. In that release, peace returns, clarity returns, and you return to a mind untangled, a heart at ease, and a life that finally has room to move. Lesson 6. Life expands when you stop shrinking yourself. There is a quiet way fear teaches us to live small. It rarely shouts. It rarely appears as a dramatic warning. Instead, it whispers subtle messages that weave themselves into our choices. Be careful. Don't reach. Don't speak. Don't try. Don't risk. Slowly, fear convinces you to shrink, not through force, but through suggestion. And with each small retreat, life becomes narrower. Opportunities that once felt possible begin to feel distant. Dreams that once felt exciting become uncomfortable. Even simple decisions start to carry more weight than they deserve. Fear doesn't need to destroy your path. It only needs to make you hesitate long enough to abandon it yourself. In this shrinking, a painful irony unfolds. You mistake safety for peace. You convince yourself that staying small protects you from disappointment. But in truth, shrinking only protects you from becoming who you are meant to be. It keeps you inside a life that doesn't stretch your soul. It creates a world where you survive, but never expand. Buddhist wisdom offers a gentle but piercing reminder here. A closed hand cannot receive anything. When your heart, your mind, your voice, your potential remain closed, nothing new can enter. You may avoid a risk, yes, but you also block the blessings, the growth, the connections, the beauty meant for you. A closed hand keeps out the harm, but it also keeps out the light. Yet the Buddhist path teaches that courage is not hard, sharp, or forceful. Courage, when grounded in wisdom, is soft. It is the courage to relax where fear tells you to tighten. The courage to breathe where anxiety urges you to brace. The courage to open your hand even when the past taught you to close it. This softness is not weakness. It is strength without violence. It is the willingness to meet life as it is, not as your fear imagines it. When you act from softness, you stop fighting yourself. You stop shrinking your expression. You stop treating every decision like a test you must pass. Instead, you show up with presence, clarity, and openness. Life responds to this openness. The moment you stop shrinking, even slightly, opportunities begin to appear not because they were absent, but because fear had made them invisible. You start to notice signals, support, timing, and direction that were always around you, but hidden behind layers of self-protection. You feel yourself expanding, not outward toward achievement, but inward toward alignment. Expansion is not about becoming bigger than others. It's about becoming bigger than the fear that once confined you. It's about returning to your natural size, your natural voice, your natural path. And this is where the shift in perspective becomes powerful. Expansion begins where worry ends. Not because life suddenly removes uncertainty, but because you stop measuring your worth by how perfectly you avoid it. You begin making decisions based on truth rather than fear. You begin walking paths because they call to your soul, not because they guarantee comfort. In the absence of worry, your life becomes spacious. Your inner world becomes breathable. And you finally realize how much potential was waiting in the corners you once avoided. Fear shrinks. Soft courage expands. And the moment you choose openness, even in the smallest way, life begins to rise to meet you. Not with perfection, but with possibility. Lesson 7. When you step back, wisdom steps forward. There is a quiet intelligence in life that we rarely notice because we are too busy trying to force our way through it. We plan, push, correct, intervene, and manipulate outcomes, believing that without constant effort, everything will collapse. But if you look closely at nature, you'll discover a truth far older and more reliable than human fear. A river finds its path not by force, but by flow. It does not argue with the rocks, nor does it demand the landscape to rearrange itself. It moves with the terrain, not against it. And in doing so, it eventually reaches the ocean every single time. Life works the same way. It doesn't require your force. It requires your presence. This is the essence of Wu Wei, the Buddhist Taoist principle of non-forcing action. Wu Wei doesn't mean laziness, nor does it mean surrendering responsibility. It means acting from clarity instead of panic, moving with life instead of wrestling it, trusting timing instead of suffocating it. Most people misunderstand Wu Wei because they hear non-action and assume it means passivity. But the true meaning is far more profound. Action that arises naturally from alignment, not desperation. When your actions emerge from peace, they are clean, powerful, and effective. When your actions emerge from anxiety, they become tangled, exhausting, and chaotic. Notice how often fear convinces you to interfere too soon. You send a message because you're afraid of being forgotten. You push a decision because you're afraid of losing control. You check your phone repeatedly because you're afraid of an outcome you can't predict. You rush through a door not yet ready to open. In these moments, life is still arranging things behind the scenes, but your impatience interrupts the process. It's like pulling at a flower before it has bloomed, or shaking a tree to make the fruit fall faster. You don't speed the process, you distort it. But something surprising happens when you step back. A job you were chasing suddenly calls you back. A person you thought you lost returns with clarity. A solution appears on a day where you weren't even thinking about the problem. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Life often knows what you need long before you do, but it cannot reveal its intelligence while you are blocking the way with panic, worry, and overmanagement. Think of all the times you forced something and watched it fall apart. Now think of the times you softened, when you let timing breathe, when you allowed space for life to move, and how naturally things aligned in ways you couldn't have predicted. Stepping back is not abandoning your path. It is clearing the clutter so the path can reveal itself. It is listening instead of insisting. It is observing instead of interfering. It is allowing your inner wisdom to rise because the noise has finally lowered. This is the heart of this lesson. Step aside, not away. Create space for life to reveal its intelligence. Stepping aside means loosening the grip around outcomes, not losing interest in them. It means doing your part with sincerity and then removing the pressure that demands the universe to respond immediately. It means trusting that the seeds you planted will grow, not poking the soil every hour to check if the roots are working. Wisdom steps forward the moment you stop clouding it with worry. Solutions appear when you stop drowning them in noise. Synchronicity rises when you stop blocking the current with your fear. And clarity arrives when you stop gripping so tightly that your mind cannot breathe. When you practice Wu Wei, you don't lose control, you gain access to a flow of life that is far more intelligent than force could ever be. So the next time you feel the urge to push, pause. When you feel the urge to interfere, soften. When you feel fear demanding immediate action, breathe. Ask yourself, what would happen if I step aside for a moment? What might life be trying to arrange that I cannot yet see? Because when you give life space, life responds. When you step back, wisdom steps forward. And when you stop forcing the river, you finally learn how naturally it can carry you. Closing reflection. The flow you seek begins within you. Take a slow breath and feel the weight you've been carrying settle for a moment. Throughout this journey, we've explored how the mind shapes storms, how fear narrows your world, how attachment burns, how imagined dangers exhaust you, and how life begins to move the moment you loosen your grip. And maybe now you can sense a deeper truth rising gently inside you. Life is not asking you to control it. Life is asking you to trust it. Not blindly, not passively, but with the quiet confidence that comes from understanding how much lighter everything becomes when you stop fighting the current. For just a moment, let yourself arrive fully here. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel your breath deepen. Feel your awareness settle into the quiet space behind your thoughts. Imagine a still pond within you. Its waters clouded by worry, stirred by fear, shaken by expectations. And now, gently, lovingly, step back from it. Give it space. Give it stillness. Because still waters clear themselves, and so does your mind when you stop stirring it with fear. Let your inner waters clear themselves. Let the sediment fall. Let the noise fade. Let the truth rise from beneath the surface, where it has always been waiting. As you soften your grip, notice the shift happening inside you. Worry begins to loosen its hold. Control loses its urgency. The need to fix everything becomes quieter. This is the movement from struggle to surrender, and from surrender to peace. Not the peace that comes from perfect circumstances, but the peace that comes from releasing the illusion that you must hold every piece of your life together alone. So as you move forward, carry this softness with you. Trust the timing of your path. Trust the wisdom that rises when you're no longer drowning in fear. And trust that when you create space within, life finds its way to you in ways effort never could. If this reflection brought you calm or clarity, I invite you to subscribe for more Buddhist wisdom spoken gently to your heart. And if someone in your life is struggling, share this message with them. It might be the breath of peace they need tonight.